I'm gonna be honest with you. Every day I want to give up and leave Ghana. How I bounce back, I couldn't let them see me fail again.
Marvin Walker is a dynamic entrepreneur with a robust portfolio of business and a global impact. As the CEO of Run Free Properties, he is revolutionizing real estate with innovative developments across Ghana. Additionally, he spearheads Shark Island, a business hub fostering entrepreneurships and innovation. Marvin's ventures are not only transforming the real estate landscape, but also empowering young entrepreneurs, creating jobs and contributing to economic growth in Ghana and beyond. His vision and leadership continue to inspire and drive positive change worldwide.
What's your long-term plan for the project? So today I'm speaking to Marvin, who owns a huge company. He's built, an island somewhere in Ada. It's called Shark Island.
Yeah, Shark Island Resort and Residence.
You're welcome, man.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah. No, look, thank you for coming. I know the path it took. That's not how I wanted it to take, but it was good it came through that way because I was gonna reach out to you anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna reach out to you anyway. So, see, when things are connected, though. When things are connected. So I got a message from Rash.
Yeah.
And he said, "Nah, I think you guys need to sit." And I was just thinking in my head, I was actually going to message this man.
Yeah.
I was going to get your number from Della.
Yeah. My sister Della.
Yes.
I love her, man.
Yeah. She's been amazing.
Yeah.
For this whole process. Now, let's talk about this. You basically made a lot of money in the US.
At different times with different endeavors that I was in, yes.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you've moved to Ghana to do business here in Ghana.
You could say that.
So let's see, there are many Ghanaians who want the American dream. They want to go to America. They want to go to somewhere in the West because it's better life for them.
Yeah.
Why have you left everything that you've worked for in the US, the better systems, better life, better everything, to come here?
Well, I didn't do it intentionally. It's kind of like a series of unfortunate events that directed me to Ghana because I didn't plan on coming to Ghana. Never wanted to come to Africa, never considered it, never thought about it. But, I had a business that I was running. I had a contract with a very huge organization. And, for several months, I was running operations for them and my business was doing very good. And they studied the model, offered me a contract, and for like 8 months was just delaying. And then one day in July of, 2017, I woke up to a bunch of text messages and calls like, "Hey, are you watching the news? This company just dropped a replica version of your business model. It looks just like it." And then everybody who was, signed to my platform jumped ship and went to that company's platform. And that kind of started the direction for me to get here. And I tried suing this company. My lawyer reached out to them. They agreed to settle, and asked us what, damages they caused. We submitted it. And then, it just quickly went left and nothing happened. But in that process, I, was trying to, make it through the ashes and hire a new operations manager. And he's the one that started planting the seeds. His name was Barry. And he was like, "Yo, Marvin, I'm telling you, your technology would do good in Africa. Go to Ghana." And he just started telling me how Ghana was the first African country to gain its independence, stable economy. He would come out here to do a lot of business, meeting with Exim Bank and all of these companies. And he had to ask me about 9 or 10 times. And I was like, "Look, don't talk to me about Ghana, Africa ever again. I'm thinking about fighting this company," right? Because, it made the news. People were calling me a scammer. I had the opportunity to be featured on a very, prominent Black magazine called Black Enterprise, me and a few other startup CEOs. And because of the controversy around it, then that was stripped from me. And it was like an accomplishment that I was excited about, right? Because, I didn't go to business school or nothing. I just started, trying my hand at business because I didn't want to work for anyone. And I fared pretty well, when I did it. And then for that all to, be pulled from underneath me, it was devastating. And then, one of the ladies that had a contract with me with this organization, she was like, "Marvin, I can't see the white man do this again to another Black brother. Why don't you go to Ghana and see what it is?" Her name was Monica Chapman. She was like, "Look, I'll pay for your plane ticket. just go and see what Barry is saying and see what opportunities are there. And that's, how I got to Ghana. But I didn't plan it. I didn't come because of the year return. I was just like, I didn't have no other option. But in hindsight, looking back, I think the universe and the creator knew that unless I was down on my knees and I had to be open-minded to this option, I wouldn't have came to Africa.
You know what it is? I usually say this, right? That especially as Black people, when we make money, we don't tend to diversify quick enough. Yeah. And there are a few reasons why we do that. One is because of the unknown, right? We're comfortable with where we've just come to sit. Yeah. We're comfortable with the money that is coming in that business. And the fear of the unknown of, let's say, for example, you're doing real estate and then all of a sudden somebody say, let's go into the gold business. You don't know that business. So you start thinking, maybe that's not what I want to do. Then you stay in there. Something happens, then you crash. Yeah. Did you diversify enough at the time when the money was coming in?
No. Well, there's other reasons we don't diversify too, right? You don't have enough, capital to take the loss, right? So, you got to be cautious. A lot of us are risk averse. So you're like, I don't want to venture out and then, I lose. And then, when you start a business, one thing you need is speed to market when you're competing against other organizations, especially once it's bigger than you. And in order to do that, you need, capital injection. And, less than 1% of minority-owned businesses in America get, venture funding. So it's hard for us to get off of, start from the jump, right? So when you do get something going, and it's going, you're like, man, I don't want to mess this up. So like you said, it's fear to unknown, but for a lot of us, it's access to capital, right? But that's why I love Ghana. Ghana teaches you that you can make it, by being creative, because you can't get access to capital here. And it's not because, other funding organizations owned by other nationalities are not giving you money. Like, no banks ain't giving you the money here. Oh, yeah. And they all owned by Black people, right? Yeah. But,
and you need to find a way to make it work.
You have to make it work, yeah.
But let's bring you on that journey, though, of self-development. Yeah. Because you were telling me about a story of how you actually got into reading books and listening to Jim Rohn, and I loved it. Because I think for a lot of people, they need to listen to people who have done it before, how they did it, and how they can understudy them. So how did it start for you?
Well, I had got out the Marine Corps and I was living in Denver, Colorado. I was driving concrete trucks, and it was a construction boom at that time. And, I was telling you that I hear voices, right? And I feel like, you need to listen to those voices. And I used to be driving home when I'd get off work, I'd be tired, and I would see this billboard of this new development that was going up. And the voice would say, call the number, call the number. And several days, weeks, months would go by, and I'd just be like, I'll call it. And then one day the voice was really loud, but yet still quiet. And I was like, all right, I'm going to call the number. And I called the number to set an appointment because my carnal mind was telling me this is a meeting about purchasing one of these homes. That's why the voice is telling me, go check these houses out. But I met a remarkable man. When I got to that meeting, the gentleman scheduled the time. I went with my then fiance to go see the properties. And it's ironic, now I'm in property development, but I met this gentleman by the name of Mike Yeager. And, I remember being in the meeting. I was 25 years old at the time. And, I'm holding my shoulders up, trying to think all the big words. Because when this man walked in, he had this glow. I tell him, you had the Bruce Leroy glow. And he white, so he don't know what Bruce Leroy is. The Last Dragon. And you could tell that this man was well-to-do. But when he started telling me the prices of the homes, in my mind, I'm like, man, I can't afford that, right? But he said, listen, let me call the owner and let me see what the owner could do for you. So this guy picks up his cell, calls the owner of this development that's being for sale, and he introduces me and says, hey, I got this gentleman here, he's interested, but maybe see if we could do something on the price. But what stood out to me was the guy was in the Grand Canyon vacationing with his family. Ooh. And I read about the Grand Canyon in school, but I didn't know you could go visit it and camp out in the Grand Canyon. So that just seemed big to me. And then I started doing the math on every single house in that subdivision that he was selling. This guy's making 3%. I'm like, man, these people are stupid paid, right? So they're talking about me buying this house. I knew I couldn't afford the house, but I'm like, wow, how are they getting all this money? And so I left, and Mike kept calling me, and I was so ashamed that I couldn't afford the house. I would dodge his calls. And one day I said, man, let me just pick up this phone call. He called me. I was 2 hours away, an hour and a half in a place called Broomfield. So he called me. I was like, all right, I ain't gonna go meet with him. I tell him where I'm at. He's gonna leave it alone. So he was like, hey, Marvin, I want to meet with you. I got something for you. And in my mind, I'm like, a rich white man got something for me? Nah, I don't know about that. Because I grew up in the Bronx, just blacks and Hispanics. I haven't had too much interaction with other races other than when I joined the Marine Corps. We got around more white people, Vietnamese. But growing up in the South Bronx, it's just blacks and Hispanics, right? And so I told him where I was. And I said, look, I'm in Broomfield. But when he told me where he was, I said, look, my fiance is not too far from you. Go give whatever you got to me for her. Right? And my ignorant mind at the time was like, some rich white man thinking I'm a poor black dude, he probably gay like me. Yeah. And I'm ashamed, but that was my level of thinking. That's how low my vibration was, right? To think that I could meet somebody that saw something in me that they wanted to invest in me. And when I got home later that night, my fiance said, look, there's the package on the bed that Mike bought for you. And it was this book called The Art of Exceptional Living. I opened it up. And when I looked at it, my dyslexia helped me see living exceptional is an art. And I remember thinking to myself, I want to know what that art is to live an exceptional life. So I turned the book over, because I wanted to read a summarization of what the book was about and who the author was. And it was like, The Art of Exceptional Living by Jim Rohn. He gave a little summary. But on the back of that audio book was a sticky note. And it had 2 words that really changed my course. And it said, be great. And nobody had ever said those words to me before. And I was like, I remember looking at this like, if this man went through all of this trouble to get this book to me, I at least owe it to him to listen to it once. So I took it to work with me the next morning, and I backed my concrete truck up underneath the pump, and I popped the first tape in, right? Because it was a multiple tape deck, cassette book. And I had never listened to an audio book before. And as soon as this book comes on, the guy's like, hi, my name is Jim Rohn. And I want to tell you a story about how my life turned around. He said, I was 25 years old and I met this man. I said, wait, I'm 25 years old. Then he was like, and this man was in his 40s. His name was Earl Schoaf. And I was like, y'all just met Mike Yeager. He's in his late 40s, right? And it was so many similarities that my mind was like, there's no way this is a coincidence. I felt like the universe was talking directly to me. And as this man started talking, and I'm listening to this book, he said Earl Schoaf started asking him the right questions, right? He was like, what is it? How much money do you have saved? And he was like, not any. He was like, why? You're all-American white male. You have every reason to do well. And he was like, who sold you on that plan? And it's important for people to ask us the right questions and for you to come up with the right answers. So I was immediately drawn to that book like a magnet, and I listened to it. But the thing that really got me on the journey was one of the chapters. He said Earl Schoaf told him, the first thing that you need to do is get a library. He said, why do you think every home over $300,000 in it has a library? And the funny thing was, again, I was driving concrete trucks. We were building a lot of homes on a golf course. So I would get to the job site. The Mexicans that were mucking and raking the concrete wouldn't be there. So I would walk through these homes. And I'm like, yeah, all of those homes on those golf courses, they all did have a huge library. And it's like, well, because they know stuff. And the other thought that came in my head was, they do say if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in the book, right?
That's it.
So I was like, man, I'm reading every book. So then Earl Schoaf started naming a list of books that he should read, right? He said, Think and Grow Rich. Doesn't that title intrigue you? Think and Grow Rich. Don't you need to read that book? Think and Grow Rich. And it's the way he was so animated. I was like, yo, I went and I bought that book too. He was like, I couldn't afford a brand new book. So he bought it in a used bookstore. And then just that idea, like, Marvin, you can't get a new book. You go buy it from a used bookstore. So I would go and buy, books from used bookstores. But now I'm into, I download a lot of audiobooks. And I ride and listen to it, right? I call it learning while I'm earning. While I'm driving, I could be, digesting this information. And so that's what really started it. And just him listing out those books. Every single book that they mentioned, I went and got. Sometimes I'd be on a job site reading one book, steering the truck with my knee, reading another book, listening to an audiobook. I got so excited about studying success and successful people because that's what my mentor said to me. He was like, Marvin, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I ain't never really want to do nothing in particular. I just want a lot of money. So he's like, oh, you mean you want to be successful? I said, yeah, if that's what you call it, right? So he was like, then why not study success? He said, yo, you know how many people wrote books that were successful that like to share their story? So I tell people now, like, I got mentors that don't even know they're my mentors, because if I respect them and their, their journey, and they have what I want, or they've been where I want to be, I go and I buy their book and I just listen to it and I implement strategies that they use, because they said the number one thing about people who get information is most don't apply it or take action.
Yes.
So when I discover new information, I force myself to take action. And that's really just the difference between, me and a lot of people. And another thing that I credit my success to is my short time in the Marine Corps. It was like the Marine Corps taught me a level of discipline that even when I got out of the Marine Corps and I was still, half the man I am now, I could tell the difference between me and, my friends of the same age group, right? Like they would make excuses for everything, right? Like the Marine Corps taught me, roll up your sleeves, get in the trenches and make it happen. So those two things really impacted and changed my life.
Wow. That took me all the way back to when I was at university, and I was really struggling to get through the course.
Yeah.
And then my best friend gave me a book. So the first book he gave me was Gifted Hands by Dr. Ben Carson.
Yep.
And, I like recommendation, right? So when he recommended it, I went straight to start reading the book. He actually gave it to me.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I need to read it. So I started reading and I realized that Ben was actually struggling just like I am. But he came out of it and became very successful. And I said, wait, hold on. If he's done it, then I can do it. And he's a black man. So after that, I changed the whole thing around. Started studying, taking my studies seriously, found different ways of learning, to grasp the knowledge. And then, it's like the universe speaks to you. When you start getting on this journey, the books start popping up.
Yeah.
Then the next book that came through, I don't know how it came through, was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Then I went through, Think and Grow Rich. Then The Alchemist. Then the books, everything else. How to win friends and influence people. They just kept coming.
Yeah.
So for me, I didn't have a lot of mentors starting out, but finding a way to study books and study people who have done it really changed it for me. And I still do it to today. I didn't even know I was building a library when I started. I was just, getting the books and reading them.
And then one day you looked up, I got this
one day
library.
I looked back and I was like, when I was moving to Ghana, that was when I realized that we have a lot of books, right? So how am I going to bring all those books? And I had to get a suitcase for that, for just the books, So, wow, no, it's a beautiful journey. And I really encourage a lot of people to get on it. Start reading and don't just read, don't just be a book collector. Act on them.
Act on
the things that you get. Act on them. Now, today, you're in Ghana. And the billboard you saw, today you've built Shark Island in Ghana. Now, I heard a few stories around, you came to Ghana with a little bit of money and then all of a sudden all that money was gone. How did you bounce back?
I came to Ghana with a term sheet for money for an organization that brought me here. When I came for the first time in October, I met with a few companies, signed some MOUs because, Barry was right. They were interested in my technology. And so one of the organizations, they were like, look, we need to raise money. And I was broke at the time, right? But they pledged a bunch of their assets, said what they needed, and they had their financials that met the requirements of, some of the funding organizations that I know of in America. So it wasn't my money, right? I just went and said, hey, I have this organization. They're looking to build a specialist hospital. This is where it's located. These are the assets they're pledging. These are the 3 years of bank statements you requested. And I just brought the two things together, right? You match a need with a resource, and I was supposed to get a 5% commission. So I came with the term sheet, right, that they wanted to offer these people of the money, $7.5 million. And then I got here and I learned about Ghana Man time, right? And I was happy. I couldn't wait for them to sign and take the money, because then I could have got my little 5% commission. And then part of our arrangement was that they would use the technology that I brought. And I was even gifting the technology to them that, look, after the payment is repaid, the loan is repaid, you guys keep the technology and keep using it, which was my daycare, health, and transport platform. And I just don't know why it didn't work out. It is several different reasons that local Ghanaians that were supporting me was like, Marvin, this thing is not going to work. This is why. They'll educate me about, they're going to delay you. That's what our people do. And I'm like, well, why would they not take this technology and this money to do what they want to do? But it seemed like they just wanted some of the money to chop it, and then knew that they would frustrate me and I'd be chasing them to sue them. And then, like most foreigners, give up and leave the country. That's what it ultimately seemed like. And, it just didn't work out, but it was their money, it wasn't mine. Now, how I bounced back was I had to make a choice. All right, this thing didn't work out. Now, I just left America, had another failed venture, came here. Two of my daughter's mothers that at the time wouldn't let me speak to my daughters. I couldn't let them see me fail again, right? So that was like the most important driving factor. Not just I didn't want them to see me fail, but I took this major leap and I came to a foreign country. I made the decision to leave my kids because it felt like it was the only option that I had at the time. And I was like, man, I got to make this work. So fortunately for me, COVID-19 hit. And then a lot of companies from America that knew I was into medical logistics and what my platform did that I bought to give to this organization here started calling me asking to license it since I wasn't coming back to the States. And I started having discussions around licensing the technology to these organizations in the U.S. And, and the numbers were high because they needed to practice social distancing when COVID hit. And that's how I realized that I could make USD while living in Ghana. I didn't have to be selling the product in Ghana. Like, it's a global marketplace. So that's how I was able to bounce back.
So how much money did you start the whole project with?
Well, when I started the Shark Island project, so I'm investing dollars into daycare, health, and transport here. We had a few clients using it. We have some clients in Villaggio, Trisaco. My nurses that I onboarded to my platform here will go take care of them. But you got to remember, I'm investing dollars, but I'm charging CDs, right? So it was hard I didn't have enough volume to turn a profit. So then when I got my land back and the title came in, I had 2 daycare health and transport cars. I went and I sold them. And I think I got I think one was like $6,000 and the other one was like $8,000. And I used that money and I started clearing the land and building.
Wait, hold on. Did you buy the land cash?
No, I didn't buy the land cash. Like, I would never do that in Ghana. Like, you never pay for land full out, because you'll end up paying 2, 3, 4 times. So what I did was I went and I sat down with the family that I was looking at the land and I said, hey, listen, I'm interested in this property. I believe that I could do something great here. I said, but I can't sell something that I don't own. I said, so, if you guys would allow me the opportunity to register the land in my name, and once the title comes back, then I would feel safe about this land. I did the land search, right? Got the indenture, the site plan, right? And then went and registered the land. And once it came back, I started selling the property and I started paying the family. So I didn't have no money when I started. That little. But
where did you get the idea from, though? Because you've never been in
successful
real estate.
people. Well, no. So listening to the mistakes that others have made coming to Ghana buying land, I was like, I ain't giving nobody no money, even if I had it, right? Because if you give it to them, you end up paying for the land. Somebody sell the land to you, they really don't own it. It isn't until you enter the land, then they say the skeletons pop up. So while I was here struggling with the daycare health and transport business, I was hearing all these horror stories, watching YouTube on people that moved from the UK, US, bought land. And I just said, let me not do those things. And let me do what the people who had success did. And the people who had success said, Marvin, enter the land first, right? Before you give anybody any money, because everybody who has claim on that land will show up. I hired a lawyer, right? I hired a real estate agent that took me to see there. We did a valuation of the land to know what the right price was to pay. So I did the things that I felt needed to be done to protect my interests. And then I asked the family to allow me to register, and they did. And then once they did, and I started selling property, I started paying them.
No, that's very clever, So that's how you were able to basically bounce back from, one of your stories where you said you were living in your truck.
Yeah, so
like that's how you bounce back from all of that.
Yeah, well, when I got kicked out of the organization that brought me here, they gave me a couple dollars because I called the media. I was going to expose them. Ghanaians don't like to be exposed, right? So they gave me a couple dollars. I paid half of my staff that worked with me. And then I bought a Hyundai Sonata. I started driving for Uber and Bolt.
In Ghana?
In Ghana, because I wanted to understand the market, because my platform, Daycare Health and Transport, was a medical version of Uber and Bolt, right? So I wanted to know what the average provider would make driving. And so I did it for a while to understand the market. And then once I got an understanding of the market, I was able to go and package something for my healthcare workers that were on the platform. Because, when I came to Ghana, Ghana only had 16 working ambulances. Now they have a little over 300. But most people who had an accident or were sick, I heard, would jump in a taxi, and I've witnessed this myself. So I said, hey, if we could take some of the unemployed nurses that are sitting at home doing nothing, give them a vehicle, give them a first aid kit, give them a wheelchair in their car. Now when people need, to get to the hospital, we call it non-emergency medical transport in America. Now, of course, if somebody needs, oxygen and all these things, they need to call an ambulance, but we would provide transportation with a healthcare professional to and from their medical appointment, just using a similar platform like Bolt and Uber, right? But we just put those extra, things in place. The first aid kit, a nurse, right?
You're something, Yeah. It's the challenges for me and the bounce back.
Yeah.
It's the thinking, the way you looked at it. And the fact that you could have been in America right now. You could have just gotten any job in America, rather than saying that you want to, be a boat rider or an Uber rider in Ghana to understand the system, to go through all of this. It's all of that for me.
Yeah. But I like adventure, right? So this trip to Ghana has been adventurous at the same time, right? Not knowing what would happen, the anxiety and the fears that would come. Like sometimes that gives me an adrenaline rush, right? And then when you figure it out, you be like, wow. You be excited and you're like, yo, man, I'm a bad man, So sometimes you got to celebrate your little successes. But I also love the place. Like I've met some amazing people here. The food is delicious. You know what I mean? The weather's nice, and I'm part of the majority. And then I was able to link my heritage from Guyana back to Ghana. So it was a part of that made me feel like whole. I didn't want to come to this place, only to come to this place to find out that, a bunch of Ghanaian slaves, settled in Guyana. And Wadamai went and found the first plaque that the first Ghanaians laid there. We have a statue in our town center in Guyana called Kofi Square. But we call it Kofi the way we pronounce it, but it's Kofi, right? So we are Ghanaians. And so to then find out my African ancestry was a beautiful thing. And I just feel complete here. Yes, there's stress, there's challenges, but there's like a stick my chest out. I'm an African,
Yeah.
My ancestors come from here.
Yeah, I feel you. Man. I feel you. There was a point in your life here in Ghana where you were living on $100 a month.
Yeah.
Now tell me about that.
Yeah. So after the organization gave me the money, I went and I was staying at this lodge in Adenta, and then the money ran out, right? So I used to be in a hotel, and I'd been there so much that they knew me. So I'd be like, I'm waiting for money to come from America, and they wouldn't kick me out. Like most guests, they would kick out. They're like, all right, Mr. Walker, we'll wait when you get the money. So I'd be staying days and days without it. And then that got a little nerve-wracking, not knowing if the money coming. I didn't want to owe these people no money and I have it. So my one of my guys, the IT director that started with me with the organization that brought me here, he took me to this young lady that was like assistant. He was like, look, my boss, he's here. Things didn't work out. And at that time, I slept in my ambulance for like 3 or 4 days, right? One of the ambulances that I bought, and it was hot. It used to be hot in that thing, right? During Hamatan, you know what I'm saying? So he talked to his cousin like, yo, could you rent, your other room to my boss? He don't got no money now, but when he gets some money, he'll pay you. And at first she was like, no. She was like, yeah, our culture don't allow for that, And I think she could see that I was desperate. And so she changed her mind and she gave me a room. So when I would get the $100 from the U.S., like Monica, Cindy Chenier, or Stephanie Burwald and Darren, like these are 4 people in my circle in America. you know, you don't want to put too much pressure on people, especially during COVID, but they always they would take turns sending me $100 a month. And I remember the CD rate was 560, 5 CD, 60 pesos. So I would take the 560, I would give 300 a month towards the rent. Then I would take the 200 and buy, you know, provisions. I would go get pears. I would buy, you know, food. And then the young lady would cook it for me. And then with 60 CDs, I would buy airtime. And then I would be talking back to the U.S., people in the U.S. that wanted to license my technology. but I lowered my standard of living and I was comfortable with it, right? But I also think growing up in a third world country like Guyana, South America, I wasn't too far removed from these circumstances. So I was able to be more comfortable where an African American who never lived like that would come in, it'd be a culture shock for him. Right. And again, for me, it was like an adventure. It took me back to my childhood when you have to take a bath with a bucket and whatnot, right? Cold water, ooh, right? So I was like, you know, this is cool. But also with again, studying successful people, they also went through these things. So it was a kind of a reassuring feeling like, Marvin, you're on the right path. Like, yo, remember such and such, you know, before they started their business, this were the challenges, right? And so I just trusted that after a while, it would get better, but I did what I needed to do every day. I made sure that I was doing something to get me out of those circumstances. I was paying attention to the marketplace. And that's what, you know.
I like that. I was paying attention to the marketplace.
Yeah, because during COVID, I was looking like, yo, they still building. Like, nobody got money, but these people are still doing construction, right? Yeah. People are still going out and eating, right? And then, you know, my favorite thing that was going on, I still haven't been to one, but I was watching like when the lockdown came off and then they launched at the then time, it was still called Afrochella, but the Afrofuture event, I said, yo, people still flying, you know, from America and all over to come to Ghana to party. And I was like, okay, these are 3 areas that I need to incorporate in my business model because the money's flowing there. The currency, the current is flowing there. That's where the currency's at. So that's what it was.
So fast forward, you get the land.
Yeah.
Finally. And then you put some properties up. Then today, you sold enough and you're still selling.
I'm not going to be selling no more properties.
How many units have you got there in total?
So in phase 1, I have 50 units.
50? 50. And in phase 2?
Phase 2 has 51 and phase 3 has 96.
How big is the land?
So the first... Phase 1 is 6.8 acres or 5.68 acres, 5.68 acres. Phase 2 is like 4.75 acres. And then phase 3 is 7.86 acres, something like that. Almost 8 acres. But all of them are, you know, from 5 to 8 acres on that first stretch that I got the land.
Marvin, you're not a native Ghanaian.
No.
You've done great in this country so far. And in such a short time, now I'm inspired. I really am. And there's a lot of Ghanaians who cannot think the way you do. They don't allow themselves to get on the path that you've allowed yourself to get on here. Yeah. Right? These properties you built in Ghana, if you did that in the US, big money.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what I sell my properties for is, 1, below value, right where it's at. But these homes in America be $500,000 or $1.5 million.
Right. Now, my question to you is, what's your long-term plan for the project?
I'm going to be honest with you. Every day I want to give up and leave Ghana because there's always something new, right? And my mindset right now is like, yo, quit while you're ahead, right? I saw what happened to Landmark in Nigeria. This guy built an amazing, you know, structure, property, and then they came and they just decimated that thing, took it down. Like in Africa, things could just, on a dime, switch on you, right? And that everywhere else too, but the laws is a little bit fluid here. What people could do if they well connected to you is different, right? But then the other day I was at Aqua Safari just chilling like I always do. And this gentleman came across, just walked up to me, hey, Marvin. And he said, yo, you know I moved back to Ghana because of you? And I'm like, what? Wow. It amazes me every day now people are running up to me. I never knew that this many people were seeing what I was doing. Like people would ask me, hey, I want to come interview you. I never asked to be interviewed. And I would just share my journey. And from what I'm hearing is people connect with me. And I think as they see themselves in me, an African-American, right? Because unless I start talking patois and like a Guyanese, people think I'm an African-American, but I'm a Guyanese American, right? I was born in South America, moved to America when I was 5. But it's just like when a Ghanaian moves to America, China, anywhere, they find a Ghanaian community. I think African Americans are looking for successful African Americans that are making it because they want to repatriate back to the continent. They want to connect with their roots. And I think they see themselves in me. And based on what I'm being told through my perseverance of my challenges, they're inspired. So when this dude came to me the other day and was like, yo, because of you, I moved back to Ghana. He said, I saw what you was doing, and I was like, I can't let this guy be having all the fun. He said, my dad has been asking me to come back, and I just kept brushing my dad off. But then I see you, I see Dre Taylor, I see, the African-American community come back, and I'm seeing that there are opportunities. And then that makes me say, you know what? I got to keep pushing for the people that I'm inspiring because I still love being on the continent. I've had some challenges, you see me talk about my experience with the police chief and different things. Contractors, like that's my biggest challenge is the contractors that you pay your money, they take the money, they run, and you want to treat them like a brother and, this is what you need, you give it to them up front. But then you got to be chasing them. And clients won't say, oh, Marvin gave the money to this contractor and he ran off. They don't go online saying, well, I'm on YouTube. Marvin took my money and ran like they did when I had the contract with the company that stole my platform. So
absolutely. You
have to protect your name when in Ghana because if you make moves based on somebody else's word, you will look very bad. But I want to inspire the people who really want to come because I didn't want to come to Africa. And we're scared because of the false narratives that we've been programmed to believe. And even if people don't come and stay, ideally it would be great if they come and stay because the diaspora and continental Africans working together is how we're going to make Africa realize its full potential.
Are you eventually going to pack your bags and leave all this thing?
I don't know. Every day it changes. Like some days I want to stay and some days I want to give up. So right now, I don't know. Last week, I was out of here, right? I need to go. I need to take a break. I've been here 5 years straight consecutive, boots on the ground, not leaving. And, high blood pressure, stress, you could accomplish things, but you can't let it kill you either. Then what have I really accomplished? So I'm in an indecisive place right now because there's some things that, have been happening that, I don't feel like I've been getting support from the people I needed support. I mean, I've written to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I've written to the Office of the President of Diaspora Affairs. And I went to the police. Like, you're giving this thing and it's like nothing happens. And it's like, is it worth your life? People in the comments of my videos like, look, they're going to poison you. They're going to kill you. You got to leave. And, of course, I'm thinking about my life and my health first, right? Those are the challenges. Challenges.
Because I recall a conversation where you mentioned that, you got arrested.
Yeah. Wrongfully arrested. The second time. The first time, it was right.
What did you do? Or what did you not do?
I physically assaulted somebody, a contractor that came and took money from me 6 months ago. I pleaded with him, called him, went to the police, filed a police report. Like, look, this person came, took money. They're not completing the job. I don't feel like the police was doing what they were supposed to do and identifying and capturing this person. And then I saw him and I put hands on him, which I shouldn't have. But I was so frustrated. Like you hear and you go through all of these things. And one of the books I read, what I'm saying, on how to manage your emotions, emotional intelligence. And I wasn't too intelligent in that moment. So they arrested me and I expected to be arrested. But after that, I had to go. My life had been threatened many times. I went and bought a firearm, a shotgun because you could have it on your property. And, then contractors will come and take money. And then they go and they tell the police that you threaten them. And they have relationships with the police. So now they're using their relationships to push their friends that are law enforcement on you. And I'm not saying that all law enforcement is bad. I respect and a lot of the police officers I've ran into Ghana, they're doing a great job. They're out there putting up these roadblocks. These are the things that make Ghana safe. But there's some bad apples there, right? That they see these opportunities And because you're a foreigner, they think that, they could get some money from you. And they do it to locals too. But I keep telling people, and they tell me that, but Marvin, they do it to locals too. I say, yeah, but just because he slapped him don't mean I'm going to let him slap me. So the second time I was lied on, a lot of false information was given to the judge, and she put me in jail for a couple of days based on, what this police chief said, that I was a flight risk. So because I paid a contractor and my company deducted the withholding tax for contractors, 7.5%. I guess the contractor promised him some money, and when the withholding tax came out, he couldn't give it to him. So then that dude kept calling me and harassing me. I'm like, bro, stop calling me. This is not a criminal matter. I said, don't call me unless you have a criminal matter. He's like, I can get some criminal matters for you. But,
I kind of feel like, you probably, for the past 5 years, you've probably figured out Ghana a lot better than I have.
Yeah.
Because, you've lived in the
Well, I don't know if it's better than you, but I'm learning. And Ghana has taught me a lot of things. Even in the challenges, a lot of great things. One thing I love about Ghana is you could sit down with your brother and sister and talk out a dispute, right? A difference in opinions. That is really strongly pushed here. I do love that, right? Teaches you patience. Nothing happens on time. And then America, we're rushing. So Ghana slows you down, right? Or Africa as a whole. And because things don't happen fast, there's some positive effects that it's had on my life. Eating healthy, right? Getting all this natural vitamin D because the sun is up. So there's a lot of pros, but unfortunately, sometimes people just hear you talk about the challenges and then they think you're a doubting Debbie and a Debbie Downer and always negative, and that's not the case. I love living in Ghana. I love the life that Ghana has afforded me. I love the people in Ghana. And I love the diasporans that I meet here that I collaborate with, like Della, like Dre Taylor, like Rush,
Yeah. Awesome
just like
people.
you.
Awesome
Rush,
people.
I subscribed to your channel. When I saw Connected Minds, I said, wow, this dude is talking about personal development. I watch it just to see the great people you bring on here and how they think, right? And just to hear what books they're reading and stuff like that. So there's so many positives to living in a continent.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I would stay in Ghana, but it does get frustrating sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
And we all go through it.
I mean, I hope you get the support that you need, especially, from the Office of the Diaspora Affairs and stuff.
Yeah.
I hope you get the support you need, so that you can get
I think it's a work in progress. They trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
Nobody prepared for all of these people coming back, this many diasporans being excited, and we can't expect them to have the answers overnight.
Yeah.
Right?
But really, do you think that Ghana was ready for calling diasporans back?
No, I don't think they was ready, but it still needed to be done. Right? Nobody's ever ready. You pull your ship out the dock and you adjust your sail. The winds are going to blow you, of course. You need to have the challenges and see issues so that you know, we need to fix this. So if they didn't put out the call and people didn't start coming and people started getting scammed for land and different things, you would know, okay, we got to put something in place to fix this. We got to put something. And I think that over time we'll get there.
We'll get there indeed.
Yeah.
Marvin, motivation or discipline?
Discipline.
Okay.
You can have a motivated fool. If you take an idiot and you motivate him, now you just got a motivated idiot. But discipline is getting up and doing what you have to do even on the days that you don't want to do it. And digging deep down. So discipline over motivation anytime.
You're definitely a listener of Jim Rohn.
Yeah.
I love the man. Yeah. Mr. Show. Yeah. Right. So my next question is, what's the best advice you ever received on your journey?
The best advice I've ever received on my journey is work harder on yourself than you do on your job. If you work if you work hard on your job, you can make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. And I've lived that, and I found it to be true. Yeah.
Yeah. Just before I say the next thing, every person that sits here that I have a conversation with, right, is naturally people I admire. Naturally.
Yeah.
It's not a random person. It's naturally people I admire. The way they think, the way they approach life. Now, as part of doing this, it's it's part of me building a circle of people that I can always pick up a phone and call and say, hey, Marvin, what do you think about this concept? Because I know you give me a genuine answer. So I really appreciate you coming in. But to my audience, if you haven't subscribed, please do. And my next question is very important, but I want you to subscribe first before you hear this one out. Okay. What's your favorite personal development book?
My favorite personal development book. That's kind of hard because there's so many, man, right?
I'll pick one.
But I just can't pick one, but I'm going to name the one that pops off of my head. The Millionaire Mind by Thomas Stanley and William Danko. Yeah. Because that book, it explains everything, how millionaires not only become millionaires, but how they maintain their money. And it teaches you all the habits, how much they spend on a watch, how much they spend on a haircut, where they invest their money, what type of industries that they go in. That book really helped me understand, how to build a successful life and the financial literacy associated with it, the behaviors and the disciplines you need to have to be that. Because I like being in, the 7-figure club, 8-figure,
No, that's good. You've been listening to some of the podcast conversations. And I would want you to pick out your favorite one. This is the first time I'm doing this.
My favorite podcast conversation that you've had.
Yeah.
Oh, man. You had a lot of people on there that I admire as well. But the one I'm going to say Watermaya. And the reason why I'm going to say that is, Watermaya is going through, he came to my island and he interviewed me. And this was before I even had anything. And he was a bit hesitant because, I was selling off plan. And, he had him and a few good people that I know put their name out for some other properties. And the clients didn't end up getting what they're supposed to. So to see him having a fight for his name and his integrity, right? Because a lot of the YouTubers are being blamed for what this organization has failed to do. And I hear that they've been taking steps toward making it right, but that guy is a genuine guy, and to hear the disappointment in his voice, because I had the opportunity to meet him, and if you meet him, you feel his energy. And he's always positive, he's optimistic, and he's this burst of energy in this little human frame. I got to get with him. I didn't know when he came back. He did my project before he went to the Caribbean, but that is one because you feel the genuineness when Watermaya speaks. And he inspires so many people to come back home. And I'm learning that I'm having a fragment of that impact. So that's why I would say that one.
Yeah. I think it was a very good interview.
Yes.
I wasn't expecting it to take that turn. Initially, I was just going to focus on his YouTube and success with content creator. But then I realized that there were a lot more things that I needed to talk about. But that guy.
He's an amazing person.
I mean, I sent my account to him and I told him, look at what you've done for just being on this channel. Look at what you've done to it.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, let's keep going, man. It's going to get even better. He's been very instrumental in a lot of people's lives. A lot of content creators, a lot of property developers.
And he shares information.
Yeah.
Like, even when he was on here, he was telling people how to build their channel. He doesn't hoard information like, I figured it out, now you go figure it out yourself. Yeah. He'll share, and he is a real, genuine person.
Yeah.
And I love that about him.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if you've been listening, my name is Derek, and I've just been speaking with Marvin of Shark Island. Now, if you haven't left a comment, please do. If you haven't shared it, please do. Now, all the podcast channels we're on Apple Podcast, we're on Spotify, we're on Boomplay, we're on AudioMac, everywhere. Subscribe and become part of the family. Stay connected. I'm out.